In the final stages of World War II, as Allied forces prepared to push deeper into Nazi-occupied Europe, U.S. military planners realized that overwhelming firepower wouldn't be enough. The Germans were masters of battlefield strategy, and deception had become a critical tool in warfare. Inspired by earlier British success in North Africa using dummy tanks and fake movements to trick German Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, the U.S. created an entirely new kind of unit, one unlike anything before. It wasn't built to fight, but to deceive. This new secret unit was called the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, though few knew them by name. History would remember them as the Ghost Army. The Ghost Army was made up of just over 1,100 men. But not just any men. These weren't typical soldiers. They were painters, sound technicians, architects, engineers, and radio specialists. Many were recruited from prestigious art schools, advertising agencies, and stage productions. Among them were future celebrities, including fashion designer Bill Blass and modern artist Ellsworth Kelly. Their battlefield was not the trenches, but the canvas of Europe. Armed with paint, rubber, wire, and sound equipment, these men trained to create entire phantom divisions capable of fooling enemy forces into believing that massive Allied units were on the move, when in reality, only a handful of people stood behind the curtain. The Ghost Army operated like a traveling illusionist show. Their primary arsenal consisted of three critical deception tools: visual, sonic, and radio. For visual deception, they used inflatable tanks, fake artillery, and dummy planes, all meticulously crafted to resemble real military equipment. These rubber decoys could be quickly inflated in fields or forests, positioned with props like oil drums or camouflage nets, and made to look entirely authentic from both ground and aerial reconnaissance. Sonic deception was equally groundbreaking. Using massive loudspeakers mounted on trucks, the unit played pre-recorded battlefield sounds: tanks rolling, construction work, gunfire, soldiers marching. The recordings were layered and mixed based on the terrain and operation size, projecting the illusion of an entire armored division moving through the area. The audio was so convincing that German spies reported hearing divisions that didn't exist. Finally, radio deception sealed the illusion. Skilled operators impersonated real U.S. divisions, mimicking their unique radio call signs, sending dummy messages, and even replicating the personality of certain commanders in speech patterns. To German intelligence listening in, it sounded like a real command structure in motion. A complete lie, carefully scripted. Throughout Europe, from Normandy to the German border, the Ghost Army conducted more than 20 deception missions. Each was a psychological operation designed to confuse, delay, or mislead German forces. In one operation near Brest, France, they simulated a large armored division preparing to strike the port. German troops were diverted to the wrong location, giving the actual U.S. forces a better chance of success. In Luxembourg, they faked bridge-building operations using sound effects and visual props to draw German artillery fire away from real engineers working miles away. But perhaps their most significant achievement came in March 1945, during the final Allied assault across the Rhine River into Germany. As U.S. forces readied their real crossing, the Ghost Army created the illusion of a massive buildup 10 miles to the south. Inflatable tanks lined the fields. Radio chatter echoed through the air. Loudspeakers blasted the sounds of soldiers preparing bridges and moving supplies. Fake patrols wandered nearby villages, spreading rumors. The Germans took the bait. They shifted troops and artillery to defend against a phantom army, and when the real crossing occurred, they were caught off guard. It was a masterclass in deception. The men of the Ghost Army didn't simply set up illusions, they became the illusion. Every mission required them to perform, improvise, and inhabit the role of a fake army. To the enemy, they had to be indistinguishable from real soldiers. This meant adopting mannerisms, routines, and even the culture of the division they were impersonating. A man might be a camouflage technician one day, and the next he was expected to walk like a paratrooper, speak like an officer, or lounge around as if guarding a real tank depot. In fact, they were encouraged to act in character at all times, even when going into nearby towns or interacting with civilians who might be under German surveillance. These casual encounters were not accidents. They were deliberate intelligence leaks, strategically placed to fuel enemy rumors. To sustain the illusion, the Ghost Army relied on a stunning variety of props, scripts, and stagecraft techniques. Fake unit patches were sewn onto uniforms. Mess halls and field kitchens were set up to serve meals to non-existent troops. Laundry lines displayed hundreds of fake garments. Jeep convoys drove in loops to make it seem like a huge army was constantly arriving. In one mission, they created a phony general staff car, with a fake general stepping out and inspecting troops, all of it visible to potential enemy observers. Their scripts were equally complex. Radio operators used pre-written dialogue to impersonate other units, down to the language patterns of specific officers. All of this was synchronized with fake paperwork, signage, and bulletin boards that even military insiders might mistake for the real thing. The Ghost Army's missions weren't just daring. They were mentally and emotionally exhausting. These soldiers had to constantly think like the enemy. What would a German scout believe? What would fool a Nazi radio listener? Every move they made was calculated. Every conversation might be overheard. Many of them carried no real weapons. They were often unarmed or lightly armed, just yards from actual German troops. The danger was real. If discovered, they would have been executed as spies, not treated as prisoners of war. Living in that mental state for weeks at a time, lying for survival, took a deep toll on many. Yet most never complained. They knew that every successful lie they told might save hundreds, even thousands of Allied lives. It was a burden of enormous moral weight. To be a soldier who kills with shadows, not bullets. As the Allies crossed into Nazi Germany in early 1945, the Ghost Army continued to operate deep behind enemy lines, even as the war neared its end. In April, near the German town of Wiesbaden, the unit conducted one of its most dangerous and high-stakes missions, deceiving the Germans into believing that Patton's Third Army was preparing to strike from the south, while in truth, the main assault came from the north. German units were redeployed based on the Ghost Army's phantom movements, allowing real Allied divisions to advance with far fewer casualties. This mission, like many others, was carried out in a high-risk zone, under the threat of artillery fire or discovery. But once again, the deception succeeded, quietly and effectively. These missions didn't make newspaper headlines. There were no victory parades for inflatable tanks. But behind each successful maneuver was a web of lies so convincing it fooled Nazi generals who had fought for years. When the war finally ended in May 1945, the Ghost Army was disbanded almost immediately. The men were ordered to stay silent about their missions. For decades, their work remained classified, sealed away in military archives. These soldiers returned home with no recognition. Many of their families never knew what they had really done during the war. Some became commercial artists, architects, designers, or teachers. Others faded quietly into civilian life, their wartime exploits buried beneath layers of secrecy. For over 40 years, the U.S. government denied the Ghost Army's existence. Their story became a shadow in the history books, nearly lost to time. It wasn't until the 1980s and 1990s that military historians and declassified documents began to reveal the astonishing scope of the Ghost Army's operations. Veterans began to speak out. Documentaries, books, and news articles slowly brought the truth to light. In 2013, the U.S. Congress formally recognized the unit's contributions. And in 2022, the surviving members of the Ghost Army were awarded the Congressional Gold Medal, one of the nation's highest civilian honors. At long last, the men who waged war with art, sound, and illusion were celebrated as the heroes they truly were. Their names, once hidden behind code words and classified documents, were now etched into military history. Today, the Ghost Army is more than just a fascinating footnote in World War II. It is a testament to the power of creativity in warfare. Their legacy has influenced modern military deception, psychological operations, and even cyber warfare. Their success showed that wars aren't only won with firepower, but with innovation, wit, and bold thinking. The Ghost Army reminds us that soldiers can be more than fighters. They can be artists, actors, illusionists, warriors of the mind. Museums now exhibit their inflatable tanks. Military academies study their tactics. Their legacy lives on in every battlefield where misdirection saves lives, and every mind that dares to fight with ideas rather than bullets. The story of the Ghost Army is one of courage, imagination, and incredible bravery. These men risked everything, not to destroy, but to deceive, to save lives with illusion rather than take them with violence. In the shadows of war, they built a stage of smoke and mirrors and fooled one of the most dangerous enemies in history. This is Battleline USA. If this story moved you, subscribe, like, and share, because some of the greatest battles in history were fought and won by the ghosts no one ever saw.